Royce. Daniel Malan, wonderful.
Fantastic from Royce. Jude Bellingham, that's excellent. Jude Bellingham, this is absolutely brilliant. Jude Bellingham, absolutely magnificent. Reina, brilliant from the American, just like that. Best of clearances. Oh, what a volley. Matt Hummels.
Rant in for Haaland, like he's never been away. The man in front of goal who is simply deadly.
Hey, welcome to the BVB podcast. If this is your first time listening, really appreciate you hanging out with us. You can find us on your preferred podcast platform and YouTube if you search the BVB podcast. Also find us and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at thebvbpod and email us thebvbpod@gmail.com. I nailed it. I'm not going to do an April Fool's joke because we're well past that. I think I didn't stutter once. My name's Jake Carver. How's it going? I feel so hyped. I mean, I'm pretty terrible, actually. I mean, I'm not great, but I just stutter my way through the intro, and as it was going, the game went terribly, but I nailed that freaking intro.
I felt that, actually. That kind of lifted my spirits. I was pretty depressed walking in here, but holy shit.
So that's it for the episode this week, because not much else to talk about.
I've been waiting these past few days to talk about what we just witnessed on Saturday, so... Well, very upset, but like excited to get into this.
That's funny because I'm the opposite, where I just don't want to talk about Dortmund at all. I'd be fine.
That's fair.
And just go have some drinks instead. And no, but coming off a pretty abysmal showing on the weekend in front of a packed, full stadium, full capacity crowd, which looked incredible. It was so good to see. Strong start, and then it just went all downhill. So, of course, we're going to preview Leipzig, whether you are excited about it or not. We'll give a quick women's update about the women's team and a historic stat for their inaugural season. We're going to roll through some Twitter questions, and we'll preview Stuttgart, and who knows what else this is going to turn into. Just a whole mess of sadness and anger, and maybe we do need to start drinking during the podcast, but... yeah, where do we start, Carver?
Before we get into the lineups, let's talk about just the absolutely electric atmosphere that this whole city had going into this game. I mean, hours before, you were seeing pictures online of supporters filling the streets and, families and friends getting together once again for the first time in years. Emotions flowing, people are buzzing, and the stands are absolutely bouncing throughout the stadium. I mean, hell, my heart was racing the pregame on ESPN, watching at home. Man, I was fired up for this one. It's beautiful choreo by the stands as well. I mean, the music, the chants, the energy in the room. What a time to be alive and to be back at the stadium.
Yeah, I was glad that ESPN gave us a full pregame. You don't always get that.
No, it's like seconds before. Yeah. It's like Holland's like kicking the ball off and like, welcome. I know you paid $6 a month for this.
Jump in with the lineup and basically get the Bundesliga going, which is something it's just a little unfortunate. I've mentioned it before. I watch a lot of Premier League, and they have a full-on production, full show, so you really know what's going on with the league, and that's something that's a little more difficult with Bundesliga. Watching in the States is it's kind of, you get the game, and that's it. Mm-hmm. Also, one thing it was a revelation. I mean, it's not anything really like mind-blowing, but I don't get to watch as much Bundesliga because a lot of the games are at the same time too.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate to not really be as up to date with everything going on in the league. But we got a full pregame with the homie. Well, you can't say he's like our official homie, but Lutz van Isiel.
Yeah.
Our St. Louis sporting director. That was
cool to see.
So he was on there, which is always cool to see. And they showed the marching down the streets, and just the scenes inside the stadium was unreal, and it's so cool that they gave it the pomp and circumstance that it deserved as far as coverage in America. But just seeing the crowds, just the scenes were unreal.
That is like the core of the identity of Borussia Dortmund. I mean, I've been a fan for this team for a decade now, and years of anticipation and building all these expectations of finally seeing the stadium in person. I was worried it was going to maybe not meet those expectations when I finally did visit the stadium in 2020, but it shattered everything. Every expectation I had that was built up for years just completely thrown out the window, man. I mean, it's a beautiful stadium to see, and the fans are great. And I just wish we could have been able to give them anything of real substance in return.
Have you noticed after the Leipzig game, all the Dortmund socials have just been shots of the stadium, even just like random, not even of the fans inside, but just like, look out this cool sunset of the stadium and the sunset, and then shots inside. And it's like, that's all you have to show from the weekend.
Unfortunately.
I like seeing them because it's cool, but they'll just post these with no captions. It's just like, they probably turn the comments off. Just like, hey, remember how cool the stadium looked? Yeah. And unfortunately, we couldn't perform in front of that, that was my prediction, was we got a full stadium. The guys are going to be up for it, playing for the fans, and kind of got it for the first 15 minutes.
Yes. I think you said it was like you predicted like a 2-1 or a 3-1, and I went with a 2-2, and I was hoping I'd be wrong, just with the energy of not only the team, but the fans as well, kind of being too much for Leipzig, and they kind of collapsed, but it almost seems like it went the other way. But so TV listed us as a back four, even though in possession we definitely look more of like a back three going into this one. Had a lot of players back, so no room for excuses with injuries here. We had Meunier was out, but that was pretty much it. Leipzig lined up mostly in the same shape they do as usual, but with an opposition, or knowing like they were having an opposition like us, it was going to be a lot more tough than usual. So they looked a little bit more compact than usual. Their strikers sat a tad bit deeper so they could cut the circulation out of our attacks and keep players like Royce and Witzel in their cover shadow. Mostly Andre Silva was doing that with Witzel, and Kevin Campbell was doing that with Royce. And they just wanted to kind of lure us into passing around the back, and then when we make some individual errors, which we always do, that's when they can pounce going into this one.
Yeah, looking at the lineup, I mean, right off the bat, seeing Haaland start, this is what we talked about last week.
We didn't think that would happen.
No, there was a lot of negativity around him being able to start, just with the injury he got with Norway, and Rosa was saying his ankle was swollen like 2 days before the game. So
I was pretty doubtful going. I mean, especially after hearing that quote, what was on Thursday, which is only days before. And we mentioned before that muscles in the ankle or anywhere in the leg can take a long time to recover. So it was pretty surprising to see him back on for sure. Yeah,
exciting though. And once I saw that, I was like, we're going to win this. We have that part in the intro where it's like, Haaland's back like he's never been away. I mean, he's been back for a few games now, but he still hasn't made that return as far as scoring. He hasn't
scored since January. Now, he's been injured, but January.
But he had
at least 4 or 5 games.
4 or 5 games is pretty insane because his ratio has always been at like at least a goal a game.
He is human, apparently. We did get confirmation with that.
Pretty frustrating. But the game, it seemed like we started strong. We were pressing hard.
Yeah.
We had a lot of possession.
Mm-hmm.
We created a couple opportunities.
Yeah. Easily had the best 10 to 15 minutes. Those first 10 to 15 minutes were easily our best span of the ball all game, easily. And despite the outstanding energy from everyone, we did have that slip up in the opening minute or two. But yeah, once we settled down, grew ourselves into the game, and set the tempo, we were able to really press well, like you said, create a lot of chances. And man, in that 7 minute, that whole stadium is on their feet thinking Royce is going to be able to net that. Let's talk about that for a sec to start off with.
Yeah, what are you doing, Royce? I just want to know what, I get, I don't know. I want to say I get dishing it off, but Royce is coming back too. Mm-hmm. Big game, big atmosphere. Dude, you got to put that away.
And he can be a big game player, And I heard the commentators saying, he tried to be clever there, and Royce is an incredibly clever player. That's one of his best attributes, is his IQ for attacks in the game. But I would also argue that he's a very clever finisher as well. I mean, you can go back straight through his entire career and look at the, impossible angles, whether it be, I think it was his first or second goal for us at Dortmund. It was against Gladbach on that right side of the pitch. I mean, that was an impossible or a very difficult angle. I mean, his free kicks, he's had plenty of half volleys on his left foot. I think he did that in the Champions League at Madrid before. So, it's not like it'd be too unnatural to see him go for that and net that. But man, just complete disconnect with Haaland there. I mean, that was the whole game. It wasn't just that attack, but that was easily the biggest and best chance that whole game, and we bottled that early on.
Yeah, and I think, how far, when he passed the ball across to Haaland, clearly they're not on the same page,
Nope.
But I'm sure Haaland's mind is he's going to shoot this.
Yeah.
Let me be right there for a rebound. If Haaland was expecting a little more, he probably would have stayed back because the ball went completely behind him.
Yeah, just the reactions from all the fans and myself included. Everyone is putting their head in their hands, going like, "What just happened?" And again, I get where Royce was coming from to make a clever play there and gives Haaland the explosion of confidence that he needs. The pop in that stadium after the goal in the first few opening minutes would be insane as well, and that probably just spirals Leipzig into a chaotic rest of their game. But yeah, just completely bottled that. And this after those first 15 minutes, that's whenever Leipzig looked like they could grow into the game more, and that's whenever they just really started pressing us more and pinning us back and forcing us just into those sideways passes, and that's whenever we conceded pretty early on as well.
Yeah, we did have another chance in the 13th minute. It was pretty lucky as far as it was a cross coming in from Wolf down the right-hand side that kind of bounced over the Leipzig defender, fell right to Haaland, who missed it too. And that was pretty much where it ended for us. Like you said, they kind of settled in the game. I heard in some interviews after the game with Leipzig players, them coming out and saying, we knew it was going to be a tough start. So you knew they were well prepped going in this game.
Yep.
Hey, full stadium. They got some guys back. They're going to be high energy. They're going to come out as strong, which we don't always see us start strong. So it was good to see that. But they were ready for it. And they just kind of sat back and took all the pressure, and then it was pretty much game over after that.
They weathered the storm really well, and they were really well disciplined as well. I get Rosa, his game plan looked like, hit him hard and hit him fast and early in this game, get the crowd behind us and the energy going, the attacks flowing, and hopefully, again, that just catches Leipzig off guard and it's just kind of game over for them really early on. But yeah, they were just really well disciplined with their defense. They just sat back, were so incredibly patient, and just waited to pounce on those opportunities. And with teams like us, we're prone to making those mistakes at the back. So the first goal with Chan giving the ball away, it's just typical Chan shit. I don't take back anything I said in the previous weeks about him. He's still, in my opinion, one of our better players this season, but he just needs to learn to be more alert and cautious and focused in these bigger matches. He doesn't need to take the bait that teams like Leipzig dangle in front of him and take chances on the ball when being pressed in those situations.
Well, because we saw him do that a few times before this goal.
Yeah, it was like
he tried to play it out
60 seconds before, if that, the exact same play happened. And it's like, dude, just Leipzig are going to be pressing that high, and they're looking very well disciplined today. Just don't take those chances, especially when you're a center back. There's no one that's going to be behind you. And he just kept playing with it, and you're gonna get punished for that, which we got punished for everything this game. But after the first goal, that's whenever we really pulled back and then started looking, more cautious, less eager to go forward. And then when they had the lucky deflection to get in the second, that's just when our heads dropped.
Yeah. I'm watching this game and seeing how well coached and just the tactics and how they just had such a solid game plan in Leipzig. Now I'm concerned, like, what was our game plan or backup plan? It just felt like we had no.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. And it seems like Rosa doesn't have that ever to begin with. We're struggling to find like the first game plan that he can think of, let alone anything after that. And man, you're going into halftime. We had a handful of chances, but again, heads dropped, and our energy the sting out of our attacks has been completely ripped from Leipzig. And Rosa's going into that halftime, and I can't believe he didn't make any, substitutions at half. It blew my mind. There's no way that he went in that dressing room knowing how, at times most of the time, weak mentally this team is. And he's like, no, I think we're fine. We're just going to switch our system to a 4 at the back. So we came out 4-3-3, and that should be good enough. It's just not. There's no way those players are going to be able to dig themselves out of that on a day like, where Leipzig is on their day. They're the best team in the Bundesliga this calendar year so far.
Are there any changes that you would have made, or like at halftime, who would you like to see come in? What would you like to see switched around?
Yeah, so I would have made a few changes, and before I even say them, I have to acknowledge also whenever they were eventually brought in, they were piss poor. 97% of our players today were piss poor.
I would love to. I was thinking about this before we started recording. I would love to give it a like player by player breakdown almost.
Yeah,
but not in this game because they're all just shit.
Yeah, they were. They were. Okay, so I said already that Silva was covering Witsel in his cover shadow. And it just cut off our circulation in the buildup. We couldn't really get it central to get up the field. So I would probably take out Witsel and bring in Dahoud. Dahoud's got a higher work rate. He's quicker and he's faster and he's able to get out of those cover shadows, as well as when he gets the ball, he's got tremendous agility and passing range and vision to be able to ping those balls back out of our third and out of the middle third and into their third. And I mean, I know Witsel had like a decent game, but again, he just was kind of invisible at times because, he was covered so well. And again, Dahoud was horrible when he did come on. But I think, maybe he just would have been, shit in general. But I think
it's a little different coming out at halftime.
Yeah, exactly.
With the big whatever hype up or getting your ass ripped at like by Rosette. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't yell at him at halftime. Mm-hmm. I don't know what goes on in the locker room, but it's definitely. I think it would have been different coming on at half with the fresh start, fresh mindset, rather than, well, the game plan still wasn't working, so now I have to come in and try to fix it.
Yeah.
I think it could have changed the game completely.
Dahoud probably would have been able to do more if, we had a little bit better mentality going into the second half and, not only changing our system, but bringing in fresh legs and fresh ideas that could have been able to, kickstart our attacks again. But 20 minutes or however many, 30 minutes into the second half when Dahoud comes on and we're really down in the dirt now, that's whenever it's going to be a lot harder for him to work himself into the game as well as lift others around him. And he just wasn't able to complete any passes, unfortunately.
They scored another goal and then we subbed, right? They scored in the 58th and then we brought on our subs about the 60th. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the exact time, but at that point
it's pretty much done and dusted, unfortunately. So, at halftime, I don't know if the dressing room was just thinking like if we just come out fighting, we can just pull the game back easy, but it wasn't going to be that easy. Everyone was already playing that piss poor, and again, I think we really just have to have some fresh ideas going into the second half. So,
yeah, I mean, I think the commentators were even saying it, and I've said it before with Dortmund, especially with Haaland on the field. If we go down, I'm confident. Like if we give up an early goal. Mm-hmm. I'm confident we can come back, and we've seen us make an incredible comeback this season before, but just how that game was going and how much control Leipzig were in, not possession-wise, but just on top of us and capitalizing on our mistakes. I was going
to say, just like for a team like Leipzig to have only 36% of the possession and really control the game that well the last 70 minutes of this game is pretty impressive. It wasn't just down to us being piss poor, but Leipzig, again, being very well disciplined, very patient and clinical in their attacks.
Well, even us having possession, quote unquote, mm-hmm. we were not controlling the game at all.
No, that's what I was saying.
We were just passing it. You mentioned it before, passing it back and forth. We tried so many long balls because we're getting frustrated and we can't create anything. But that's why we go back. I go back to Rosa. What's your game plan? Because mm-hmm. that can't be it. You can't be satisfied with the center backs just passing it back and forth, slowly getting pushed back, and then just hit a long ball up to Haaland and hope that he gets it.
Especially when you get like a gut check like that and you have that lucky deflection from Leipzig and you're going to halftime at 2-0 down. I just don't understand how Rosa doesn't have any sort of backup game plan. So that was pretty... it was pretty embarrassing to watch, but I really think it's not entirely on him as well. It's, I think it also comes down to the recruitment, are we wanting to have more players at this club that truly would really want to give everything, like their heart and soul into the team? Because it looks like half of the time this season, 6 of our starters couldn't really give a shit. And, I think that's really going to affect you in these kinds of games, and you're just not going to be able to win titles like that. That's just not how champions act. Bayern act like champions. I've said it back in the winter, but Bayern come out every single game wanting to demolish another team, and they are ready to demolish another team, and they're, again, just act like champions, and we just crumble. We roll over, and we just hold L's.
So, I guess looking ahead, I don't know. I mean, this season's toasted. We're not. There's a chance of Bayern. I haven't seen an update, but Bayern missing out on their points from the weekend from having 12 guys on the field for 17 seconds. But it doesn't matter.
I was going to say,
if we would have won this game, if we would have had a plan and played well or anything, I don't know. If we would have won, then it's on. But now I've lost.
Even if Bayern do drop those points, we just don't deserve to catch up at this point. You just simply don't.
There's been so many of these games. I mean, it's so much up and down. And there's so many games that we need to win and we flop. Like all the big games against direct rivals or all of our big European games and Champions League. If you look at that, it's just been so poor. Mm-hmm. We've lost with huge score deficits too.
Mm-hmm. You can't come at this game saying injuries were the problem either. I mean, Rosa had pretty much everyone at his disposal, and still we just had this kind of result. But yeah, I mean, I guess at one point you could argue like it looked like there might have been a comeback when Malen had that header from the weird Chan over the head kick, and then it's 3-1, and maybe you could get some sort of result out of this. But man, just like after that goal, we just completely if it's even possible, switched off even more. And gave Dani Olmo acres of space outside of our box for, he made that shot look easy. I don't know if you remember the.
It was a great shot.
Unbelievable shot.
Nobody was on him.
No, I mean, they were giving him acres of space. They just, again, they didn't care. That players just don't look like they care. It's humiliating. It's embarrassing. And it's unbelievably frustrating too. I mean, this was supposed to be like, an inspirational return for the fans. And, all this bullshit over the last few weeks that the team has been posting on like their profiles of like, we care about the fans. We're going to wear these special jerseys and everything. And it's like, okay, great. But like, can you put it, where it actually matters on the field? And then the team's just looking at us like, no, no, we're going to hold our L's.
It was pretty ironic for them to wear those special jerseys.
Yeah. St. Louis was on those jerseys. Yeah. Wearing my name for that, with that kind of performance. And, just the support is for them to show up and give that kind of support to the team, and not just at the game, but before the game, around the whole city. I mean, again, that whole town was just bouncing and just nothing in return. It's just shocking. I was just flabbergasted watching this game.
So I feel like I asked you this question early in the podcast when we started. I remember after what loss, but where do we go from here? What happened? Like, how do we turn this around? Not this season, but what is this? Well, leading in next season, and like, how do you feel about Rosa? I've backed him a lot, and I've put a lot of blame on injuries, and I've kind of been like I've felt like he hasn't had the opportunity to maybe command and coach how he wants to or needs to due to the injuries and all that. But now I question it because I don't see a game plan. We haven't seen a game plan all year. I don't know what style we're going to play. I don't know what his style, what he wants to implement. I don't know any sort of game plan, lineup, formation. I don't know what's going to happen. And now I'm starting to lose faith in him. I've seen a lot of kind of mixed feelings. I see a lot of people still backing him on Twitter and saying it's more the board and the club decisions, the recruitment and all that. And I get this is not really his team. Like, he did not pick any of this team. He was just inherited, which I've said before. But still, I look at the game like this, and as I mentioned before, against direct rivals who are maybe a little more direct in the standings. I mean, we're sitting decent in second, but at this rate, I was like, maybe people will catch up in just our performances in Champions League and Europa League and Pokal and just these big game performances. We can't seem to do it, and that has me a little more worried and concerned.
Yeah,
with Rosa.
So we haven't been able to perform at a lot of big games this season. That's a good point, but going all the way back, I mean, you can't focus on next season until you have to take one game at a time and focus on these next few weeks. We are in for a true demolition on international television in a few weeks in Munich if we don't really start to, commit to a real game plan and put some real time, money, and resources into what we're going to do these next few games. Because, I mean, Munich are just going to rip us apart. We need a game plan that doesn't allow our squad to not completely dismantle in the first 30 minutes, or when we go, just 1-0 down even. And we need to have some sort of connection on the field too, because, Rosa is supposed to be, if there's any tactics you could put to his name, would just be high energy, free-flowing attacking football. But, I mean, how much disconnect could we see on Saturday alone? I mean, we had 0 final passes to just finish off a handful of these, should be easy chances. But just, again, we just so disconnected. Even at the end, whenever Brandt came in and he had that fake shot and sent 3 of the Leipzig players going one way, and then just had a send-off, and Malen wasn't even on the same planet. Just those players just looked like they'd never played together before. So, I mean, those are the first few things I would address. I mean, in recent weeks, I would argue our attacks are looking worse than our defense. I mean, going back to even, Mainz or Köln, I really think we were struggling more in attacks, even Augsburg.
Yeah, that's what it feels. It feels like it's not even the defense is the issue now. I mean, it is, and it still is an issue, but it seems like there's no plans or ideas. I don't see what they're trying to do on the field other than pass it back and forth and hit a long ball up there. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of creativity. I haven't seen a lot of the really quick 1-2 passes that we talked about a lot before, that this team can be good at. It just seems like there's no plan, and I don't know what to look out for. I don't know what to be excited about. I don't know. I don't even know what I want to see in these last few games. Obviously, I want to see the team perform a little better and consistently, but I don't see that happening too. And I think, as you said, it's not all Rosa. It is a lot on the players. But I just don't know how we fix it. I don't know how we move on until the summer and we can clear people out and bring some new people in. I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think some real looks need to be put into recruitment this summer, but for the next few weeks, again, Rosa needs to come at this with, a different mindset and, trying to come up with systems that help create a little bit more opportunities going forward, and hopefully we can take those chances. I think that would help us immensely, just simply putting these away, because we've had countless games this season where we have a few chances early on, don't finish them off, unfortunately, and then they come back to bite us in the ass 10, 12 minutes later. So not collapsing in the first few minutes and, not dropping our heads, trying to find more space going forward in different areas. I know it sounds pretty, vague, but anyway, okay, so let's talk about, I'm going to do a few more before we move on to Stuttgart and other things. I just want to do 2 or 3 individual standouts. So people were asking about Haaland. I mean, what did you think of him this game? If you have a take on him.
I don't have much. I don't know. I think it doesn't all come down to him, though. I think he wasn't getting the service. And that leans into what you were talking about not creating or not getting those passes connected. And he's not getting the service, so he's not having shots on goal or not being Haaland like we see. Yeah,
and it's not like he didn't make any runs during this game. I just think it was just a matter of we couldn't time them correctly at all. I saw a handful of times where Guerrero made a run or Haaland made a run. It just wasn't timed or well, and now we're just kind of looking to pass it back to Hummels in the middle, and then it's back and forth their center backs again. So, I mean, he did all right, I guess. Just, again, so much disconnect, and just hopefully we can find better ways to look for him going forward. I think the only person we could even consider for a man of the match, because I think everyone was shit, is maybe Jude. I mean, Jude still played his heart out, and I forget what at timestamp it was in the game, but he was getting just ripped apart by 3 different Leipzig players, and he was still taking all 3 on and ended up with a ball and got fouled. It was in our third. So he's one of those few players in the field we can look at and point to him and be that's a player that wants to be here and wants to make changes in this team and, lift others around him.
Do you, I guess back to big picture stuff, do you see this collapse as far as not connecting, and it seems like we're not pressing as a strong unit anymore like we've seen us do?
I think that's been a struggle for us most of the season. I mean, I don't think the pressing was much of our issue in this game. At least us pressing, it was just dealing with Leipzig's press. and a few other things. But
I mean, do you think
that has been
of
an
this
issue? Definitely.
I guess it just seems like a lot of the players aren't connected. They're like really disconnected. They can't link anything up. Do you think that's down to frustration, frustration with the team, and that is that an issue that's kind of eating away at this team?
Yeah, kind of. But it also, I think those players to begin with, when they're recruited here, they kind of view this opportunity to play for us as like a stepping stone, and they're not really putting their heart into it. So it becomes easier to get frustrated at others around you, unfortunately. So again, I think that really comes down to recruitment. Of Sebastian Kehl has thankfully addressed that a handful of times since he's been hired, of like, we're going to get players going forward that want to be here. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to help a lot with not only, connect the players better on and off the field, but, bring a true identity and intensity back to our play and like a bite to our play,
Yeah. I'm still excited and hopeful about Kehl and
me too.
This summer, what this summer could look like. Although I said I'd worry and I'm concerned about Rosa, I'm not necessarily saying I want him out. I have no idea who you would bring in, and I think him given the opportunity to help build the team and really start to shape that will be a lot more beneficial. It's just it sucks that this whole season has been such a throwaway.
Yeah,
and
especially with Holland's last year, it is. Yeah. It's a very big missed opportunity. We could have won silverware these past 3 or 4 years. It's not like we didn't have opportunities to do so. Which, I mean, we did. We won the Pokal, and that's huge, and that was amazing to witness, but could have won more is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Do you I don't know. I was gonna I was just gonna ask, do you think there's any chance Rosa isn't here next season? I mean, I think he will be here.
I think he probably will be, unless we really continue to spiral the rest of the season, because then that shows that this manager is, just doesn't have the dressing room on his side and isn't able to lead this team.
Yeah.
But it's very unlikely. If we continue to collapse, who knows? But
I have seen a lot of reports on, I mean, it's Twitter, but who knows where that stuff comes from. But I've seen, it seems like there's a positive connection between him and the players. It seems like he's got the backing of the players. And one thing I see a lot is they all get so motivated and fired up by his inspirational speeches. I'm like, I don't care how inspirational you sound, because clearly you're not inspiring anything on the field. And that's why, if there is this good connection, it all just seems so concerning to me. I don't know, when you look at that compared to what we're seeing on the field, that's my big concern. And I don't have an answer.
I mean, it's like the question. It's the hardest thing is how you're going to translate that onto the field or onto the pitch,
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just, it just sucks. It sucks that this whole season has been a wash. But do you want to get into some Twitter questions?
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to get all that shit off my chest, because, I mean, like every other supporter this Saturday, I just sat there with my jaw dropped for 90 minutes straight. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing.
Yeah, it was
humiliated.
Brutal. Okay, so first Twitter question. We might be bouncing around with topics here a little bit, but it's from Native Spades, who is runs the Borussia STL supporters group. So shout out Nate with your badass mustache.
Love Nathan. Yeah, he's a great guy. It's awesome that he was able to connect so many of us in St. Louis, and the club is great. So appreciate you, Nathan, and we'll have to have you on here soon.
What effect do you think Sule will have on the back line? Who would you drop and or sign to shore things up? Also, did Berkey get the right amount of blame, or how much of his problems were indicative of a weak defense? I want to touch on that real quick.
Okay.
There was something that came out about Berkey saying he wants to get a few minutes at the end of the season just so he can say goodbye to the fans, which would be really cool to see. And then all the St. Louis people can see him in action for a little bit. And then also on that note, this was a big points after the game. I don't remember who the interviewer was, but he interviewed Coble, and he kind of threw this at Coble, kind of seeing if he would put any blame on the defense. And he didn't, and he played it cool. And it was a tough question to answer, but he also, who's Leipzig's goalie?
Golaci.
Yeah, Golaci. He asked Golaci the same thing about Coble. He's like, what do you think of Coble? And he's had a good season, but he's leaking all these goals. And it's like, dude, don't ask that to the opposing. And he also did a good job of answering that. And it's like, well, I don't really want to talk about the other team, but he's a great keeper, and showed him some good respect. But it's interesting that question being asked, and also us getting this question about Berkey. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So Sule will bring obviously a physical presence. I think in the same situations that you saw with Chan on Saturday, if you were to slip Sule into that exact same position, he minimizes a lot of those kinds of mistakes. I mean, Sule's not that really boneheaded when it comes to tackling. He's just as composed on the ball as Chan. Not as much as a great dribbler, but he's very composed, and he's incredibly huge and strong, so no one's going to be able to body him off like they did with Chan. And I'm not saying Chan is a weak player. He's one of our strongest, but Chan and Sule are just like whole different ballparks in my opinion when it comes to strength. So yeah, composure, a good passing range as well, speed, strength, all things that are going to really help us for our defensive issues for sure.
Especially if we get Schlotterbeck, which I've said I'm not trying to get too excited about transfer.
It's up and down with him every day, it seems like.
I've seen a lot. It seems like lately, the last 24, 48 hours, there's been a lot more talks about him coming in, which is exciting.
I don't know how legit all that stuff is. A lot of the times it could just be random Dortmund Instagram accounts trying to get clout. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me too much because, again, I think the board's wanting to make some statements this summer. But yeah, I mean, Berkey, the last part of that question, Berkey's an interesting one. I talked about him before, but he had plenty of dips in form during his tenure at Dortmund. Plenty of shots looked very savable, and he made some pretty schoolboy-like mistakes at times. So I don't know if it was entirely on our defense, but at the same time, he deserved a hell of a lot more clean sheets than what he just ended up with. Our defense did leave him out to dry plenty of times. So like a yes and no, I guess, for the last part of that question.
And I mean, we always get questions about transfers and like in who we drop and who we bring in. Mm-hmm. We've talked about it a lot. I mean, is there anything else you want to throw in?
About what?
I mean, who we drop for next season, who we bring in? Is there anything new from the last week?
No, I don't think there is.
And once the summer comes on and things get real, we'll really dive into transfers and stuff. At this point, it's kind of pointless to get into all of it. And we kind of say the same thing every week. We're linked with Adeyemi. We're linked with Schlotterbeck. Who knows what's going to happen? Mm-hmm. And okay, we had a question from Temple Noli, Noli. I probably said it terribly wrong, so I'm sorry. But how can the transition from defense to attack be better because they always have possession but lose it in the midfield? Which this last game, it seemed like we had no possession in the midfield, and it was just, hey, center backs, pass it back and forth, and then kick it up to Holland. Try to.
We dominated like possession numbers wise, but we couldn't control the game much at all. Our transitions have been a problem as well this season. We can't really decide between dropping back deep when we lose the ball and really solidifying and being compact or staying compact, so we can be able to shut down a bunch of their chances. It's between like that and then also like a team press, and it's just kind of a half-ass at both. So we just, some players will drop back and the others will like try to press, but not well and not in a disciplined manner. So people just kind of slide right by. So I think to fix that, Rosa needs to look at recruitment, and at the same time, we mentioned before, a real solid box-to-box midfielder I think would help a lot with that. One that's got the intelligence and vision and maybe agility to get out of those high pressing areas as Dahoud, but at the same time has the composure and body stature of Witsel and the IQ of Witsel. I think both of those could really help in that area because it can not only help link up the defense to offense when we have possession, but at the same time shut down attacks going the other way. That's probably the number one thing I would look at because Witsel at times like wants to try to help shut down attacks, but he just doesn't have the speed anymore. So
I also read that question in my mind completely wrong. I was just thinking transitioning from the defensive line to attack, which is why I was like, we're just hitting long balls. Yeah. So I apologize. I'm glad you knew what he was saying. and
maybe I read it wrong. Who knows?
No, I don't think so. I think that makes way more sense because that is something where, we can win the ball back occasionally, but I kind of mentioned it before is maybe on our press this season, like we haven't been as in tune. So someone might be able to win the ball, and then there's just no one to get it to. If one guy is pressing really hard, then no one's going to be there around him. Or even if he gets a touch, and then a touch that clears it out to the middle, but no one's swooping in to grab it. And also that the almost inconsistency of the midfield and not building those connections. So you win the ball over, who do you get it to? Who's that point person? And I think that's a lot of individualism in the team too, is if they win it, all right, I'm going to run with it. But you need that person to kind of keep you in check and command and control the situation.
And I think Jude does a great job at that, but I just think he needs someone next to him to do a lot of that dirty work. I mean, someone like a Delaney would complement Jude terrifically, in my opinion. You know, someone that's able to close down those attacks whenever we're losing position at the same time, you know, has the ability to track all the way back and leave Jude a little bit of space to be a little bit more attacking. But,
Cool. We'll do one more Twitter question from Nico Vadoy. What do you think about the Akanji interview where he was insulted by a BVB fan? Should Akanji know better and react differently, or was the fan out of line? I did not see this, but you said you did. So.
Yeah, I saw a clip of it. I didn't dive too much into the behind the scenes of it much. I just saw it was like a 15, 20-second clip or something like that online. But it looked like, again, you can't see the person that's yelling at Akanji. He's behind the camera. And it looks like Kenji just got pretty frustrated. He was already caught up in the emotions and the heat of the moment. And I think he just said into the mic, you know, the fans are great in here and everything, but I wish I had some more support at times. And I think it's kind of a mix of both. I mean, I don't think if you're, you know, a true fan of Dortmund, you were like trying to harass our players, and especially like someone like Akanji that I don't think deserved a lot of hate for this game. I mean, he didn't play great, but he also wasn't like the reason that we gave up goals or anything like that. So I wouldn't have really like came at him like that. And also at the same time, Akanji is a professional, and he also has had plenty of support here too. I mean, he's been here for years, and his first year, he was like known for constantly giving the ball away in dangerous areas and, you know, just giving away needless goals for pretty much an entire season. So, and he was able to have this, you know, redemption arc to be one of the most underrated center backs in Europe. And he did that all in the same club. So I don't know if, you know, what he said of like, I need more support is kind of accurate. That was kind of like Immobile-esque.
Also, with all the reports of it seeming like he doesn't want to be here anymore. And
yeah,
I mean,
it does seem like that.
That can come down to a lot of things, like maybe he doesn't feel supported and whatnot, but us giving you $10 million a year doesn't mean we don't want to support you, but you just bailing, acting like you're already bailing. I don't know. You know, I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah.
But you know, everything that's said on Twitter, you know what's out there, but yeah, pretty interesting. And all right, should we move on to a little happier things or?
Sure. Yeah. So, just two quick last things. The women's update. Of course, we saw a tweet from our good friend Adam saying that the women's team conceded their first goal ever, in this season, which is, I remember whenever you told me that a few weeks back that they didn't concede any, I was like, that's
their
unbelievable.
Goal differential was like 86 or something. So this isn't just them. So they did concede one goal, but they also scored 13 in the game. So not a lot of concern.
Yeah, it was against Berghofen, if I'm saying that correctly, and 13-1. So that was our first goal conceded as a club for a women's Borussia Dortmund team. So.
And they are.
You know what? Not good enough. Let's scrap the team.
How dare they? Yeah. So they're still flying, and despite them being in sixth tier of the
seventh tier, Kreisliga I.
You can watch their games. There are some live stream links. If you want to check out all the stats and learn more about the women, we're talking about a lot. He does some women updates with us occasionally, but Adam at Foosball Tweet on Twitter. So we'll link all his info so you can learn more and follow the women's team who are flying and will probably win a trophy this year because they are in a cup competition. So
yeah.
So we have all that linked in the description if you just scroll below in the podcast. And then looking ahead to Stuttgart.
Yep. Quick preview for Stuttgart this weekend. Stuttgart have been picking up some form since mid-February. They've only got one loss in their last 6 matches. I haven't seen them play much at all this season, to be honest with you, but I do remember them in the past year or two, bringing the Bundesliga some really energetic and entertaining football. I read that this year they've gone usually with the approach of like a 4-3-3 to try to man mark an opposition's back three, if that makes sense to you. That sounded condescending, and I'm sorry.
How dare you?
Do you get that? Do you
What's
get that, Jake?
Man to man? Marking?
Man marking. Yeah.
I know, Carver.
Sorry. That's funny.
He's like, oh, he is an idiot.
Yeah. And so that was kind of worrying to, kind of analyze, because we've been running a back three and we're pretty prone to making mistakes at the back. But Rosa also, I think, fancies a back four more than anything. So I imagine he'll probably go with that going into this one. But like Leipzig, Stuttgart also like to counterattack, and they counterattack well, and they counterattack with pace. Thankfully, one of their best players, Borna Sosa, their young Croatian left back, has like 7 assists this season. So he is not unfortunate for us, but unfortunately for Stuttgart, out until I think mid-April for another week or two. So I imagine he won't be playing this game. So thankfully for us, I think some of their sting going forward, at least from the left side, is going to be out of this one for this game. And thankfully, again, we don't really have anyone on the right that would have been able to match up with them. So, but Stuttgart is also in a relegation battle too. I think they're right in the zone for a playoff spot. So every point for this season going forward counts for them. So this will be yet another gritty game to show the true underlying personalities of the squad.
I did this to you last week, where I kind of just threw it at you. But as far as a predicted lineup, what are there any players or any changes you might want to see with? Anywhere midfield attack. Maybe see Dahoud come back in.
Yeah,
is what I would like to see. Attacking options. I would love to see Reyna start and give him a chance to I don't know, run things. Because I thought he looked really good with USA in the international break, and I would just love him to get a run. And I don't know, no one's claiming their spot. Yeah,
exactly. I know. So, nobody wants to start for this team. It's crazy, and that's the opposite of the problem that you want to have as a coach. I don't think Reyna looked that great in Saturday, and it sucks because I kind of want to see him start, but I also don't know if he's really the person to pick to start in that slot either. Mm-hmm. I'd personally probably go Malen. Malen netted one, and it probably gives him a boost in his confidence. It's 5 goals this season in the league alone, and I think he could probably help provide that attacking sting a little bit more. But yeah, I would at least like to see Gio come on at some point in this game. So probably a back four with Royce, Malen, and Haaland as like a 4-3-3. And then the midfield of maybe Witsel as like a 6, and then Bellingham and Dahoud on either side of him. Yeah.
I guess I would also like to see Malen start. Mm-hmm. I didn't have an actual lineup formation in my head, but I was thinking I would like to see Reyna. And Malen, we've kind of been back and forth with Malen. Also, it's kind of like what is his position? Because some people are calling for him to start, and I want to know: are you having him start over Haaland? Because I still don't think that's the answer. But starting him as a winger position, I don't hate that idea. I like seeing him even cut in from the left.
I was saying, I know you mentioned that before, that you like him a little bit more in those wider areas, and I think that's probably where I would slot him in for Saturday as well, just kind of like under Haaland and able to make runs off of him, which I think Haaland thrives off that. He needs people to be making runs around him. Him and Sancho linked up beautifully like that. They were the best duo in Europe. And I'm not saying Malen is Sancho, but some qualities there that are similar.
Yeah. I'd be interested in seeing him starting on the wing. I guess if we start kind of similar, like a three at the back, say if we do.
You're saying 3 at the back?
Well, I don't know. I have the lineup pulled up in front of me. I said, me saying I want Reyna in doesn't also mean I want Royce out. I would want Royce starting in there. I don't know what my lineup is, but I guess what are your thoughts on Hazard and Wolf? Because if we play this kind of back 3, Hazard was the wing back, but Wolf could play that. What are your?
I don't start Hazard personally. I don't know what to say about him at this point. He's been really unconvincing for a while now. Probably Wolf. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your score prediction?
Oh my God. I have no idea. I've said it before. I want a nice, simple. I'll take a simple 1-0. I'll take a 1-0 loss. Honestly,
really,
I don't want us to lose. I would rather.
Sounds like you do.
I would rather us lose 1-0 than just get blown away. We've had so many big defeats, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah, we have been humiliated a lot this season. Usually those kind of games like on Saturday happen like 2, maybe 3 times a year, and we've had 7 of those pretty much.
The last time
not in the league, but like across all competitions.
I mean, the last time I called for 2 draws was the worst 2 draws of our season against Rangers, and then I don't remember the other one, but they both felt like terrible losses. I'm not calling for a loss. I'm not calling for a draw, but it's very hard for me to predict.
Are you predicting a 1-0 loss is what you're saying?
No, 2-0.
2-0 loss?
2-0 win.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I'm going to go, I mean, I imagine we concede again. I'm going to go 2-1 us. It'll be, I imagine we'll probably net one relatively early because we'll be coming out fired up, wanting to, give a response from Saturday, and then net another stupid ass goal because Dortmund, and then probably 75th minute on, we net one. Haaland's going to finally score again. 2-1.
I don't know if we're going to score early, but who knows? Hey, you know what? I'm changing my prediction.
All right.
5-0 win.
You're insane.
No, I mean, that's how we've been going this season. So
yeah.
Is that all, Carver?
Yep, that's it.
Cool. I'm glad you had a lot to say because as I said before the episode, I could have not said anything. I could have just written this week off.
Yeah.
As far as not be sad about Dortmund. But
I was the complete opposite. I've been waiting. I wanted to like not be depressed for a few days, but I wanted to like keep the same energy I had of just pure anger from Saturday, and try to channel it into this.
Would it be better or worse if we did episodes immediately after the game?
I don't know. That's what I'd probably get in trouble for shit, I'd say.
Well, this one I almost watched the game again to prep myself for the episode. I was like, I'm gonna be way too mad. I can't do that. So it's nice to have a couple days in between.
Yeah, I agree.
But Dortmund does play this Friday, 1:30 Central Time for us, of course, on ESPN Plus. I think the women are back in action this weekend, so I'll have all the details about that in the description. Thank you for hanging out. Hopefully this has been a nice, it wasn't nice, but a bit of a therapy session, rant and rave session for you, as much as it was for us. Although I said I didn't want to sit here and talk anything, I'm glad I have Carver to talk with and talk through things. So, here's to looking ahead to next season.
Yep.
Thanks so much for listening. Again, you can find us anywhere by searching the BVB Podcast. Please follow us Twitter and Instagram at the BVB Pod. I'm going to ask you to do us a favor. If you like hanging out with us, if you've been hanging for a while and you want to throw us a little review and a rating on Apple and Spotify, that would be awesome. So we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, the feedback's been great for this show. We're learning as we go, and it's been an absolute blast. But yeah, I wouldn't expect that any sort of traction to get going, considering we're from the Midwest and we're talking about a German soccer team. But we're getting some decent numbers. So yeah, if anyone wants to go ahead and share some love, that'd be huge.
Yeah, really appreciate everyone who's listened so far. And if you spread the word of the 2 guys from St. Louis talking about Dortmund.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. We'll see you later. See ya.
Bye.